And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Delvecchio here. You know, I guess we'll have to get used to the 1 hour falling backwards today. Set your clocks back if you haven't already done so. Sunset is officially in about 20 minutes, believe it or not, about 4:37 p.m. Yeesh. Well, time to hunker down as we head into winter. I try to look at the positive side. You know, in about 7 weeks, days are actually going to start to get longer, believe it or not. All right, so let's hang in there together. And speaking of hanging in there, you know, November has started, and Movember is an annual event involving the growing of mustaches during this month to raise awareness of men's health issues. Joining us today to talk about the movement and the causes it supports is Evan Connors. He's the Senior Manager of Development at Movember Canada. Evan, you are a busy guy this time of year. Thanks for joining me again on Life Unrehearsed.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having us. It's definitely the hairiest and busiest time of the year for us at Movember.
I love it. So for our listeners that may not know what Movember is, Evan, what is it and what causes does it support?
So Movember itself is the world's largest men's health charity. The campaign is really around raising funds and awareness for key men's health issues, and in particular, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, men's mental health, and suicide. And the movement's really all about promoting early detection, prevention, treatment of these health issues, while also leveraging the power of community and just encouraging everyone that gets involved to have an open and honest dialogue when it comes to men's health.
And you mentioned the important point there, Evan, open and honest dialogue. And let's face it, guys aren't the greatest at communicating these things, particularly around men's mental health. And this is how the movement started, I believe. You know, wear that tacky mustache and have people make fun of you. But that is the trigger for conversations, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, the mustache is kind of our walking hairy billboard that throughout the month you may kind of catch an eye from another guy. And I know for myself, I'm heading into 15 years of growing a mustache in support of Movember, and it always sparks a different dialogue, and sometimes it's with a stranger, sometimes it's with a friend, but kind of helps break down some of those historical barriers that have prevented guys from having some of these conversations. And I often think about these conversations kind of like going to the gym. The first few times it's a little tough, it's like working out a new muscle, but eventually it gets a little bit easier and you start having more and more of these conversations. And it's a momentum and change thing where you get better at them, and then once one guy's better at it, he's able to kind of trickle that into the next person, and then we're better dads, friends, colleagues. It really is a trickle effect, but it just starts with one deep conversation, and we really hope that the month can really empower more men in particular to dive in and just check in on one another.
Talking with Evan Connor, Senior Manager of Development at Movember Canada, talking about Movember and its different causes. And I love that. You know, it's now beginning the dialogue. I think it's almost generational, Evan, you know, where I think people are a little more, men in particular, a little more comfortable talking about these sensitive issues. It started off originally, and it has expanded, but you mentioned at the beginning prostate and testicular cancer. How prevalent is this, Evan?
So when we look at prostate cancer here in Canada, 1 in 8 Canadian men are going to be diagnosed with in their lifetime. So it's quite a few. You think about your friend groups, your workplaces, there's probably a few people in there that maybe will be impacted themselves. Maybe they already have through a friend or family member. And then testicular cancer is the most common form of cancer for young Canadian men between the ages of 15 to 40. And really when it comes to testicular cancer, part of the scary thing is a lot of guys just don't realize their risk. And we have a tool online called Nuts and Bolts. It's an online tool for guys to just learn a little bit more how to self-check. It's pretty simple. Our female friends are quite good at self-checking when it comes to breast cancer, and it's very similar behavior. I mean, you're checking your testicles instead of your breasts, of course, but it's encouraging more men. Again, I chatted at the beginning about that early detection and catching these things much earlier on in the process, and it can help save your life. And again, it's just normalizing having these discussions, encouraging another buddy to check or go into the doctor and have a conversation even about their prostate. It's stuff we don't always talk about, but we're definitely heading in the right direction with that dialogue.
With the dialogue and recovery rates as well with prostate cancer, that has drastically improved over the years. What are some of the reasons for that positive outlook?
I think a big thing is just more and more guys are becoming informed to get in and get checked at. We look at some of the statistics if guys get in and they catch prostate cancer while it's still isolated to the prostate, your chance of living beyond 5 years is about 98%. Whereas for a lot of guys, if they do wait and the cancer begins to spread outside of the prostate, your survival rate drops significantly to about 26%. So we do a lot. We refer to it as men's health literacy, where we educate men in Canada and around the world just about getting into the doctor, having a conversation. For the average male, starting that conversation at the age of 50. If you're of Caribbean, African descent, maybe you have a known family history of prostate cancer, starting that dialogue as early as 40. And it's just getting informed, getting into the doctor every year. It's kind of like when you go in and change your winter tires, kind of you can book it around the same time, get in, get looked at. And you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for the people you love. My dad's a prostate cancer survivor, and the best thing he did was get in and have it looked at and get the proper treatment.
Early detection is absolutely key. Listening to Life Unrehearsed, Matt Delvecchio here. I'm talking to Evan Connor during Movember, and Evan is the Senior Manager of Development at Movember Canada. Going to switch gears. Very much a focus of Movember now, Evan, is mental health and suicide prevention. It's really an increasingly important concern, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's still, again, it's one of the silver linings, in my opinion, coming out of COVID is we've normalized that dialogue around mental health and asking for help. But when you look at men's health in particular and some of the rates, here in Canada, 3 to 4 suicides are by men. And every day we're losing over 7 men to suicide. And again, a lot of this stems from the fact that guys still struggle a little bit to open up. We've always kind of had this idea that real men don't cry and some of these things that have prevented us from opening up. But we really try to leverage the campaign and Movember generally. To encourage guys, there is strength in vulnerability. And I would encourage anyone on this call that identifies as a male, like if you're going through a hard time, pick up the phone and call a friend, call a family member, let them know. Don't feel like you have to keep it all inside. You'd be shocked at how willing your friends will be there to support you through these challenging times. And the reality is we all go through them. You mentioned with daylight saving times, it's going to be dark at 5 o'clock. It's kind of a dark and dreary time of year, and it can be a little tough on the mental health. So have a dialogue, pick up the phone. We certainly spend enough time on them. Call someone, and if you're doing all right, call someone else and check in. Just ask them how they're doing. Reinforce the fact that you're there for them. We can all be a little bit better at supporting our friends here and there, and just reinforcing the fact that they are going through a hard time. There's nothing wrong with that, and you're there for them.
Exactly. And one of the major reasons of Movember Canada is exactly what you're saying. Get the word out. Don't be shy to talk. Reach out to a friend if you think someone is going through some difficult times, Evan, and great for helping spread the word here. We have to wrap it up just real quick. You've got some excellent resources on the Movember website. How can our listeners find out more?
I encourage everyone, jump onto Movember.com. You can still get registered for the campaign by growing, moving, or hosting. You can also learn a little bit about prostate cancer, learn a little bit about testicular cancer. Jump on. You can go through a tool called Movember Conversations to help you have some of these conversations with a friend going through a tough time with their mental health. But get on, learn a few things, and then share that message with one guy in your life, and we'll all play a positive role in creating this change.
Love it. And Movember Conversation, it's good. Might not be comfortable face-to-face talking about it. Get online, look up those Movember Conversations, some great hints and resources. Evan, I want to thank you very much for spreading the good word here on Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you so much for having us. We always appreciate it. And I encourage everyone, jump onto Movember.com, get registered, and have some fun.
All right. That's Evan Connor, Senior Manager of Development at Movember Canada.